Welcome back. Today is day 16 of the Soul Movement Challenge. We are officially past the halfway mark and we are starting to build a little bit of intensity, starting to build a little bit of complexity with our own movement. And hopefully you're staying in a place of curiosity and at least attempting some of these more challenging movements. So let's go ahead and start out on the ground. We're going to come down into a seated position, kind of any way you would like to on this first one. We're starting out in a seated position, in a cross-legged position, and we are going to start out a little bit different than some of the previous uh, sessions. We're going to start in a seated position with the palms up, and I'm going to just get some breathing. So I'm going to have you dial into your posture a little bit. Think about trying to stack your head over your hips. And then once you're in that position, I want you to take 5 deep intentional breaths. All right, so while we're still down here, still trying to kind of keep this more relaxed breathing as we move, but we're going to cross and uncross the legs. So we kind of played around with a similar variation. So we're just going to a cross-legged position on the other side, and I'm just going to go back and forth like that, getting a small little lean back. And you can kind of go at your own speed here, but the intention is to, even if you're moving quickly, to still be able to control the entire movement. Just waking the hips up, dialing our breath in. Getting a few more reps here. All right, and you can rest. We're going to stay on the ground. We're going to go take it into something that will feel and look a little familiar. Going back to this shin box position, we are going into a little rotational reach today. So you're going to be holding this position, letting your hand come down and allowing for a good amount of rotation here. And think about it like you're trying to keep your chest relatively upright. And I'm trying to extend from this rear hip. So my glute is engaged, allowing for this to rotate. Take a second to breathe into it. Then we'll come back to neutral and then we'll go again. And with each one, feel free to take as much time in that kind of extended position as you need to really feel into how much range of motion you can actually get. Try and connect to some softness in your movement. One more rep on this side. And then we'll go ahead and switch to the other side. And you can switch however you'd like. So now we're in that shin box position again on the other side. Twist it a little bit so you can see my position. Same thing, trying to keep the back relatively upright, allowing for my chest to stay kind of more, kind of imagine as though you've got writing on your t-shirt and you're trying to make sure that if someone was standing in front of you, they would still be able to read what's on your t-shirt. So we're trying to avoid this kind of position where you're kind of crumpling forward, trying to stay a little bit more upright. All right, after this one, you can rest. We're gonna stay on the ground. We're gonna take the feet. You're gonna try to dorsiflex, so kind of flexing your toes back towards your shin. And then we're going to take it up and around and just get some swivels. Anyone who's trained with me has done their fair share of swivels. So you all should feel pretty comfortable in this movement. And today, as you can tell, we're trying to not use the hands. It's okay to kind of use your body to counterbalance, use your arms to counterbalance. And it's pretty normal to kind of end up with a little butt scoot. So you might start walking across the floor a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. We'll get one more rep. All right, and then we're going to stay in this position and we are going up and down. So driving up into this tall kneeling position and then back down. And this is one where if it starts to feel a little weird on your knees, if you go into a plantar flex position, so now your toes are pointed out away from you, that position will allow for, excuse me, your hips and your knees to kind of be in a slightly more efficient position for this extension, kind of for the top end of this movement. So you can play around with that, pointing the toes, seeing if that feels any better. And if you're not already at the top, you should feel your glutes working a good bit. After you come down on this one, we'll go ahead and switch to the other side. So you can kind of switch however you need to. And then again, plantar flexing the feet. So the feet are pointed, then lifting and lowering. And you might find it's really easy in positions like this for your feet to end up cramping, especially if you're not used to pointing your toes like that. So you might even have to kind of massage the feet out a little bit so that they don't stay kind of cramped or pulled into that flex position. Keep going with it. You're doing great. We'll go one more here. And then we'll sit back down. We're going to stay still on the ground here. We're actually going to switch back to the other side. And this next one is a pretty challenging movement. So I'm going to give you some ideas of how you can approach this if you're new to this movement. Leaning into your hands is going to be a good approach for this next movement. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. You're going to lift this back leg up, extend it straight out, and then bring it out and around. Notice I'm kind of fully seated here. Then I'm going to bring it out again, bend my knee, and then gently touch my knee, bring it around. You can notice my body leaning a good bit. That's kind of another approach you can also do to allow for the movement to happen just a little more efficiently. And as you do the movement, like I said, if you need to, you can do the movement with your hands on the ground, still getting a lot of work for the hips, just not as much of the core work. So if you can do the movement without the hands, that would definitely be more ideal. And this is a movement that, again, you can be, because these angles are, for most people, they're pretty unusual. You might feel your hip kind of start to cramp up or get super tight, where you might have to, pause and allow, kind of rub the hip out a little bit. That is definitely, take your time with it, because again, we are doing some harder movements. We'll get one more like this. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and switch to the other side. Same thing applies. If you end up needing to use your hands on this side, feel free to. You can also play around with it a little bit. You might find that, on some of the movements, one side you don't have to use your hands or you don't have to regress the movement, but on some sides you do. So we're gonna pick it up, extend it out, and bring it out in front. Notice I'm also trying to lift my leg as the leg comes out in front. And you can go, try not to go like crazy fast with this, but it's definitely a movement where going at like, I would say a little bit quicker speed will allow you to be able to kind of sense all the pieces of the movement. Sometimes if you go too slow, you'll kind of end up like falling out of it. So the speed can actually be a little bit of an assist in the movement. Let's try for one more rep, maybe two more. Let's do two more reps. All right. Woo! Hopefully you're feeling the hips, starting to feel like everything's waking up a little bit. We're now going to take it kind of back up to standing, but with the intention of kind of staying with the theme of the hips here. So we're going to be reaching down. We're going to go into what's called a bootstrapper squat. This has some other names too. Hands are going to be reaching down, trying to grab onto either the big toes or even putting your hands kind of fully underneath your toes. From that position, I'm going to try to sink my hips with my arms nice and long. I don't necessarily expect you to get this low, but get as low as you can with getting the spine somewhat extended. And then you're going to raise the hips so that the spine is rounded. So anchor in, try to relax the shoulders at the bottom. Sorry if I'm blowing into the mic here. Just breathing. Let's do one more rep. All right. And then you can go ahead and come back down to seated. And we're going to kind of stay with even more things that we're working with the hips. Now we're going to do, so we did a rocking squat get up a while back. We're going to do kind of a similar movement, but we're not going to stand up. So you're just going to be getting to the squat and then rocking your way back again. So let me show you what that's going to look like. Rocking, getting to the squat, rocking back again. Getting to the squat, rocking back again. So it's okay if you're a little off balance. You don't have to like perfectly stay in the squat. We're just trying to get your body used to these really deep positions, which for most of us are just not positions we play with often. One more up. All right. And then we're going to stay on the ground. Excuse me. And we're going to come back to kind of a crawling setup, tabletop setup. And we're going to be going, kind of working with that extension and flexion, kind of still focused on the hips quite a bit. We're going to be here, and we're going to go into just bringing the feet, or sorry, bringing the hands a little further back, just going straight up with the hips, and then back down. This is not a down dog. This might look or feel similar to a down dog, but what we're trying to do here is play with some curiosity in how you approach the movement. So think about it more as something that you've never seen before, and someone just told you, I want you to start from here, and I just want you to go up with your hips and just kind of see what your body intuitively wants to do. Because some people will go straight up, some people will go back, some people might even go more towards their hands, do almost more of a handstand. Again, there's no right or wrong. I'm trying to approach it with some curiosity. All right, you can rest. I'm not going to do a ton of those, and then we're going to come back up to standing, and we're going to get kind of the first squat of the day, even though we've done a fair amount of hip stuff, kind of our first I would say a standing version of a squat. Okay, so we're gonna be starting with the feet shoulder width apart. We're gonna go down and we're gonna lift and lower from the feet. Excuse me. So it'll look like this. I'm gonna do a couple of reps and then you can join me. So starting here, we're gonna lift and lower, lift and lower. So shake it out, get ready. When we go into it, we're gonna try to do 10 reps and then come out of it. But you're gonna be holding that ideally for all 10. All right, going in 3, 2, 1, let's get it. 1. Good, you're almost there. All right, you can come out of it, you can shake the legs out a little bit. If you need a little bit more time, take that time. And then we're gonna continue to keep working the hips. I know today's been quite hip heavy, so I want you to, take breaks when you need to. You can even pause the video, if you need to grab a drink of water or something. Some of these movements are challenging in a different way. It's not as aerobic, but it's definitely gonna wear the body out, especially if you're not used to moving your hips in some of these deeper ranges of motion. So now we're gonna go into a frogger. So this is gonna be, my hands are gonna come down. I'm gonna jump my feet up towards my hands, but then I'm gonna stay in that position. So I'm gonna start here, jump it up. So now my feet are flat on the ground, jump it back, jump it up, jump it back. A few more reps here, we're not gonna do a ton. All right, you can rest. Nice. Nothing crazy on that one. And then we're going to allow you to play with some kind of shifting gears a little bit, going more upper body focused for the next few reps. We're gonna bring the hands together, go back to what we've done a handful of times now, handful of times, and we're gonna go for a set of these wrist rolls. And if I haven't shown you up close, this is kind of what you're trying to accomplish with these wrist rolls. We want a lot of extension with the bottom wrist and a lot of flexion with the top wrist. We want to allow for this kind of spin. And then when you're ready, you'll go backwards. So you kind of allow for the movement to happen towards you rather than away from you. Same thing, lots of range of motion for the wrists. And then we're going to take the fingers, interlock them the opposite way. So now your opposite thumb is on top. And we're gonna do another set of going forward for roughly, let's say 16 reps. End it on an unusual number. And then going backwards, since today is the 16th day of the challenge. All right, and then we're gonna go take the arms straight down beside us and then straight up overhead. And it's gonna start to become more of a swing, so you can space your feet out a little bit, and we're just going straight up and then back down. So it's kind of like the swings we've done before, but just much bigger. And as it starts to feel intuitive, we're gonna take it to where you have a little bit of a hinge where the arms are moving behind you slightly and then coming up on your toes a little bit at the top. So it's kind of like a exaggerated kettlebell swing with some small differences. All right, you can rest. we're now going to go into a hold, but a very different kind of hold. So we're going to go into, I want you to kind of imagine, this is not a ballet specific movement, but I want you to kind of think about a ballet dancer when you go into this. So we're going to bring the arms out almost like you're holding something. And ideally we want the shoulders dropped. So we don't want to be here, we want to be here. We want to try to create as much length in the neck as possible. I'm going to come up on my tippy toes. And then while I do that, we're just going to try and hold that position. So starting in this position, we're coming up on the balls of the feet, and we are, so you can kind of see I'm on my tippy toes, and now we're just holding this position. Try and stay as high as you can with your heels and as long as you can with your neck. Good, keep going, you're doing great. You can move a little bit if you want to, add some complexity to it, and rest. Nice. So it's a great way to kind of play with your movement a bit more. Keep in mind that all of these positions, you're going to find something that feels really similar to something you've done before, but the goal is to step outside that box of what you're used to thinking about it as. So if you're used to thinking about a push-up as strictly an exercise, it's going to be hard for you to break into a sense of play. So I want you to just, again, be curious about all the different movements that we're doing. And with that in mind, let's do a few push-ups. But with that in mind, I want you to treat it less like a push-up and more about trying to play with the diversity. So this might be changing your hand position slightly. This might be allowing for, when you bend, allowing for your elbows to go out or allowing for your elbows to go in. This could also mean that instead of pressing down with the chest, maybe I'm pressing more to one hand. So instead, like if you're looking at me straight on, maybe I'm pressing like this instead of pressing like this. So with that, I'm gonna get a couple of push-ups and I want you to join me in just as diverse a way as you possibly can. And you can absolutely keep the knees on the ground if it is pretty difficult to do it without. And if you're able to do it with the feet up, just start to play with that. Get about 5 reps, and that's where we'll call it. Well done today. Again, stay with that spirit of play. Hopefully you're taking that with you and incorporating more play into your day-to-day. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.